15 strange events surrounding Princess Diana's death that don't add up. The tragic death of Diana, Princess of Wales, in a 1997 Paris car crash remains one of the most controversial events of the modern era. While official investigations concluded it was an accident, numerous inconsistencies and strange occurrences have fueled conspiracy theories for decades. In today's video, we'll explore 15 of the most discussed points that continue to raise questions about what really happened that fateful night. Number 1. The White Fiat Uno. One of the most perplexing mysteries is the appearance of a White Fiat Uno at the crash scene in the Alma Tunnel. Multiple eyewitnesses reported seeing this particular vehicle in the vicinity, and forensic analysis found paint traces matching a Fiat Uno on the wreckage of Princess Diana's Mercedes. Despite the potential significance of this lead, the driver of the Fiat Uno was never conclusively identified or brought forward to explain their presence and role, if any. Some have speculated that the Uno was involved in a conspiracy to cause the crash, perhaps clarifying an attempt on Diana's life or contributing to the events that unfolded. Others argue it was simply an unrelated vehicle that happened to be in the area. Nonetheless, the inability to fully explain the White Fiat's links to the crash scene exemplifies one of the many loose ends that continue fueling doubts about official conclusions. Number 2. Henri Paul's alleged intoxication. According to toxicology reports, Henri Paul, the driver driving Princess Diana's Mercedes that night, had a blood alcohol level well exceeding France's legal limit for driving. This formed the basis of conclusions that his drunken negligence was a primary cause of the crash. However, Paul's family and friends vehemently disputed these findings, asserting he was not intoxicated before driving and alleging mishandling or potential mixing of blood samples. Compounding the doubts, Paul was operating a vehicle belonging to the prominent Al-Fayed family that evening, fueling speculation he may have been targeted or set up. If sober, it raises questions over the accuracy of evidence and potential motives to frame him as impaired. Conversely, if Paul was indeed inebriated behind the wheel, it may point to negligence and poor decision-making as the chief factors. Number 3. The flash before the crash. Among witness testimonies, multiple individuals reported observing a bright flash or spark of light immediately preceding the collision in the Alma Tunnel. While its origin remains undetermined, this unsettling detail has contributed to long-standing theories of foul play or sabotage. Potential explanations have ranged from photographic lighting equipment accidentally going off to more nefarious possibilities like an explosive device or deliberate attempt to disorient Paul as the Mercedes driver. The flash itself has never been conclusively explained, despite its striking abnormality. Some dismiss eyewitness accounts as confusion born of the traumatic event. However, for those examining potential culpability, the prospect of a manufactured flash taking surprising drivers off guard adds an extra layer of intrigue to the entire night's circumstances. Number 4. Malfunctioning CCTV Cameras. While official reports confirm that none of the numerous closed-circuit television cameras positioned along the route taken by Princess Diana's Mercedes were actually functioning and recording that night, this widespread CCTV failure is highly unusual for the Alma Tunnel and its surrounding areas, which are typically well monitored by French authorities. The lack of footage documenting the Mercedes course has led to accusations of intentional suppression or destruction of potential video evidence that could shed light on the events. Equally plausible is the idea of sheer negligence in CCTV maintenance and operations, creating an evidence void. Without video records, a crucial perspective into the driving conditions, vehicle pursuits, and any other relevant events on the road that night is permanently lost. The mere existence of potential footage could have clarified ambiguities or contradicted witness statements that have persisted for decades. Number 5. The missing seatbelts. It's widely reported that Princess Diana was not wearing her seatbelt at the time of the crash. Some accounts even suggest her seatbelt may have been faulty or perhaps tampered with, though evidence is lacking. The shocking revelation that someone of Diana's status and profile would neglect this basic safety protocol has understandably raised concerns and criticism. In contrast, the sole survivor of the collision was Diana's bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones, who was properly restrained. The disparity in seatbelt use between the princess and her security detail has prompted theories that seatbelt sabotage played a role, though none have been proven conclusively. Other more charitable perspectives argue Diana felt momentarily liberated from typical restraints or simply made a regrettable decision not to buckle up on this occasion. Regardless of the reasons, her lack of a seatbelt ultimately contributed to the severe injuries that would prove fatal combined with the force of impact. It remains an ominous data point in understanding the human errors and poor judgments that fateful night. Number 6. Mohammed Al-Fayed's allegations. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Mohammed Al-Fayed, the father of Dodi Al-Fayed, who also died in the crash, became one of the most vocal proponents of conspiracy theories. Al-Fayed consistently and emphatically alleged that Princess Diana's death was no accident, but rather a planned assassination orchestrated by British security services and the royal family itself. His core assertion stemmed from the belief that the royal establishment, particularly King Charles, perceived Diana as a threat that needed to be eliminated due to her potential to derail his path to the throne. Al-Fayed claimed rogue elements within MI6 and the elite military forces carried out the deadly operation on the monarchy's orders. While Al-Fayed's grievances as a bereaved father are understandable, his specific accusations of a royal conspiracy have never been substantiated with direct evidence over the decades since being introduced. The Al-Fayed claims, nonetheless, resonate with those who believe such dramatic actions could be possible from an ancient monarchy with a reputation for obsessive secrecy and self-preservation. Number 7. Diana's letter and premonitions. Adding an eerie supernatural element, it's claimed that Princess Diana wrote a letter in 1995 expressing fears that someone was planning for her to be killed in a staged car accident. The letter's contents allegedly stated her belief that this would happen to make the path clear for King Charles to remarry. The authenticity and existence of this so-called premonition letter from Diana remain hotly debated and unproven. However, its allegations align with conspiracy theories depicting efforts to have her removed from the royal picture. If validated as genuine, such candid documented concerns from Diana herself about her safety would certainly raise new layers of disturbing questions. Separate from the letter controversy, friends and confidants of the princess reported her voicing generalized feelings of anxiety and even potential danger during her final years. These assertions suggest Diana may have harbored real fears about her circumstances, though the extent and basis remain speculative. Number 8. The Pont d'Alma Tunnel. A seemingly trivial but puzzling detail involves the route chosen the night of the crash. Specifically, the driver's decision to enter the Pont d'Alma Tunnel, where the fateful collision occurred. This underground passage is notoriously problematic due to poor lighting conditions and pillars that can obstruct visibility for operators. Intentionally steering into such a tunnel, which is easily bypassed, is understandably questionable under normal circumstances, let alone while being pursued by paparazzi at high speeds. Selecting this route has fueled suspicions that nefarious advantages were sought, such as the tunnel's seclusion and lack of surveillance, creating an opportune environment to execute an orchestrated operation against Diana's motorcade. On the other hand, the tunnel route could also be viewed as a panicked, misinformed, or simply poor choice of paths by an anxious driver. Without knowing precise motivations, the skepticism surrounding this fateful route decision persists as another real head-scratcher. Number 9. Operation Paget. Amid unrelenting conspiracy claims, the Metropolitan Police in Britain launched Operation Paget in 2004, an extensive reinvestigation into the theories and suspicions surrounding Princess Diana's death. Over the course of several years, the 800,000-plus page report explored potential foul play, assassination claims, and other conspiracy angles. Ultimately, in 2006, Operation Paget concluded by finding no credible evidence that any kind of conspiracy, cover-up, or murder had occurred in relation to the 1997 crash. The findings upheld the original rulings of it being a tragic accidental death primarily caused by grossly negligent driving and excessive speeds. Unsurprisingly, conspiracy theorists outright dismissed Operation Paget's conclusions, claiming the multi-million-pound investigation itself was compromised and purposely skewed from the outset to dismiss any validity of foul play. The operation's inability to put skeptics' minds at ease has arguably only amplified doubts over time. Number 10. The inquest. Following Operation Paget's controversial findings, public and legal pressure mounted to reopen the investigation into Princess Diana's death through official inquest proceedings in London. Between 2007 and 2008, this formal inquest hearing reviewed all evidence over the course of several months. The lengthy process heard testimony from over 250 witnesses and culled through a massive evidence docket. In the final verdict, the inquest jury determined Diana's demise qualified as an unlawful killing, citing the reckless actions of driver Henri Paul and their vehicle being pursued by aggressive paparazzi as unlawful hazards contributing to the fatal crash. However, the inquest conclusion that Diana's death did not involve murder validated earlier police investigations. Many avid conspiracy theorists and doubters found this verdict ultimately unsatisfying, claiming it still failed to adequately address persistent suspicions of an orchestrated plot at work that night in Paris. The mixed, non-definitive resolution left this tragic episode's complete truth perpetually murky. Number 11. The paparazzi pursuit. One of the most criticized and scrutinized factors leading up to the fatal crash was the aggressive pursuit of Princess Diana's Mercedes by paparazzi photographers both in vehicles and on motorcycles. This reckless paparazzi behavior created an extremely dangerous high-pressure situation on the roads of Paris that night. The inquest found the pack of paparazzi tailing and surrounding the Mercedes contributed to unlawful hazards and obstructions that the driver, Henri Paul, struggled with. Photos from the scene depict an unsafe scenario of media personnel vehicles swarming uncomfortably close. While not directly causing the crash itself, the paparazzi pursuit played a major role in escalating circumstances into a panicked, hazardous scenario that overwhelming evidence shows the ill-fated driver struggled to navigate safely at those speeds. Princess Diana's security team was inadequately staffed and equipped to control the media mobbing that created this menacing environment. There's no doubt the insatiable lust for exclusive Diana photos motivated the paparazzi's brash actions. However, victim-blaming the tragically overzealous photographers alone doesn't absolve the apparent lapses in judgment by Diana's driving team to better extricate her from this high-risk situation. Number 12. The slow ambulance response. Another area of suspicion involves the timing and routes taken by emergency responders and the ambulances transporting victims from the crash scene. Official records indicate a lengthy delay before ambulances even arrived at the Alma Tunnel following the collision. Even more puzzling, the ambulance carrying Princess Diana took a circuitous route that avoided the most direct path to the nearby Pitié-Salpêtre hospital, adding crucial delays before she could receive urgent medical care. This routing decision has been extremely controversial, fueling accusations that a slower response was somewhat intentional or reflected gross incompetence at best. If true, the delayed medical care and transport routes may have cost Diana precious time to treat her internal injuries and constitute a criminal failing of public safety protocols. Surviving victims and families have understandably criticized any unnecessary delays as potential factors making the difference between life and death. Conversely, other analyses conclude the response times, while imperfect, were broadly typical given logistical challenges in Paris that night. Definitively proving intentional delays or inaction remains extremely difficult either way. The ambulance response arguably exemplifies how seemingly minor or explainable decisions can appear nefarious under such extraordinary circumstances. Number 13. Diana's embalming. In one of the more sensational conspiracy claims, Mohammed Al-Fayed alleged that Princess Diana's body was deliberately embalmed at an abnormally hasty pace to conceal potential evidence she may have been pregnant at the time of her death. Al-Fayed theorized this was part of an orchestrated cover-up, as a pregnancy could have created motivations to eliminate Diana as an obstacle to King Charles' path to the throne and remarriage. However, the chief forensic examiner who conducted Diana's autopsy firmly refuted any pregnancy evidence tampering, stating biological signs would still be apparent to medical professionals regardless of embalming timeframes. While embalming always prompts proper procedures, no credible sources have substantiated Al-Fayed's wide claims that this was accelerated to hide a supposed pregnancy from the British monarchy. The allegation more likely stems from Al-Fayed's well-known animosity towards the royal family in the wake of this tragedy. Despite its improbability, the pregnancy cover-up narrative persists in fringe conspiracy circles, exemplifying how emotional turmoil and fierce anti-monarchy skepticism can breed distrust in official procedures and medical practices, no matter how unfounded. Number 14. The SAS allegations. Among the most dramatic and sensational conspiracy theories are those claiming the elite British Special Air Service, SAS Special Forces, were somehow covertly involved in orchestrating Princess Diana's death on behalf of the monarchy's interests. These assertions largely originated from a single source, a former SAS soldier separately facing criminal charges who incendiarily alleged he was part of a team directly assigned to execute an operation against Diana. Beyond his questionable credibility, these spectacular claims were never substantiated with collaborative evidence. Theorists argue connections between the SAS's specialization in conducting cloak and dagger operations and Diana's status as a perceived threat could prove plausible motivations and means for the ultra-secretive unit's alleged involvement. However, tying named individuals or specific units to an officially ruled accidental tragedy remains entirely speculative based on existing evidence. Most security experts dismiss the SAS conspiracies as fanciful delusions concocted to stroke existing anti-royal sentiments. The extraordinary claims nonetheless illustrate the public's enduring fascination with viewing the princess's death through a sinister spygraph lens worthy of a blockbuster espionage thriller. Number 15. The public narrative. Despite official rulings declaring it a tragic accident, distrust and suspicion surrounding the details of Princess Diana's death continue permeating public consciousness over a quarter-century later. This disconnect between sanctioned investigations and the court of public opinion underscores how conclusively this fatality was handled and portrayed is viewed as incomplete at best. For many observers, the apparent inconsistencies, bizarre coincidences, and poor judgments made that night in Paris constitute either an orchestrated effort to distort the truth or shocking levels of incompetence. Perceived secrecy or lack of transparency by authorities only compounds doubts over being provided the full, accurate accounting. While conspiracy obsessions can veer into unsubstantiated fantasies, disquiet remains valid when legitimate questions linger unanswered. The sense that crucial context and perspectives are missing allows space for speculation to fester endlessly. An inability or unwillingness to thoroughly rebut skeptics reinforces their convictions about an official narrative being shaped for ulterior motives. As evidenced by the myriad points examined, Princess Diana's untimely death at just 36 years old is a tragedy enshrouded in endless mystery that may never achieve universally accepted closure. No matter the definitive truth behind that fateful night, its profound legacy of suspicion and doubt continues to captivate the public psyche unabated. From the inexplicable White Fiat Uno to allegations of a royal family conspiracy, her tragic passing that night in Paris continues to be cloaked in mystery and unanswered questions over 25 years later. While official investigations have ruled it an accidental death, the bizarre inconsistencies and unusual circumstances we discussed give plenty of reason for public skepticism to endure. Missteps, poor judgments, and potential cover-ups all combine to create an air of doubt that may never be definitively resolved. What's your take on these strange events? Do you believe they point to a greater conspiracy at play, or simply an unlucky chain of coincidences and errors compounded by intense public scrutiny? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Be sure to like this video, share it with others interested in this topic, and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking content. And until next time, thanks for watching.